Should you use a beneficiary deed? Hi, I'm attorney Paul DeLaurie. Be sure to like and subscribe so that you can get more videos like this about how to protect yourself, your wealth, and your loved ones. So first of all, what is a beneficiary deed? Well, it's unlike the normal deed. A normal deed transfers your real property, house or building or whatever the deed is recorded on, it transfers it right away. However, a beneficiary deed is also called a transfer on death deed, and so it transfers the real property upon your death. Now, when you record a beneficiary deed on your house or whatever the property is, you continue to manage the house, you continue to own the house, and you can revoke it at any time. So there are some pros and cons to using a beneficiary deed, and first of all, let's talk about the pros. A beneficiary deed avoids probate. So property transferred by a beneficiary deed does not have to go through the probate process. Now, the normal probate process in any state is going to take usually 6 months or more. And it'll be longer in some states. It quickly transfers the property. So upon the death of the grantor, the person who signs the deed, it is relatively easy to transfer the property to the beneficiaries. Basically, they record a death certificate. They take off the social security number for privacy reasons, and that's recorded, and that effectuates the transfer of the property. There's lower fees, so a deed is much less expensive than an entire probate or managing a trust, so it's fairly simple. Now, it doesn't affect liens or loans. After you sign and record the beneficiary deed, you can still sell the property, you can still get loans on it, mortgage it. So the beneficiary deed does not remove prior liens, so it really doesn't affect any of that. And it doesn't remove the liens when the property transfers to the heir. So they still get the property subject to any mortgage or loan that you have on it. So if the property is owned as joint tenancy, like there's two of you that own the property and you both sign this beneficiary deed, then it's effective on the death of the last of you. Next, what are some of the negatives to using a beneficiary deed? Well, it turns out that the negatives are actually related to some of the benefits. So some of the benefits of using a beneficiary deed is it's cheap, it's quick, and it's easy. And in the process of doing something that's cheap, quick, and easy, you might be skipping some of the possible things that could happen in the future. You might be not thinking about some of the possibilities that could come up. For example, what happens if there's a tax on your estate when you pass away? There could be some confusion about who's actually responsible to pay that tax, especially if you have a will or a trust that says one thing and then you have this beneficiary deed that says something else. There could be confusion. Also, the recipient of the house or the property has no asset protection, so they're just getting it. So if the beneficiary of the property is in a lawsuit or a bankruptcy or getting a divorce, they're getting that property, and whoever is suing them, they're kind of dancing and celebrating because they know that their judgment is going to get paid at least from that property. Okay, they're guaranteed to at least get something. So what you could have done is to transfer the house in trust, and then the trust, and most trusts are done by attorneys who think this through. Most trusts will say, well, if the beneficiary is in a lawsuit or getting a divorce or something like that, then we're just going to keep the property until the beneficiary can safely receive it. The transfer may not automatically happen. For example, what if the beneficiary dies before you do? Well, then it's not going to them, and it's not going to be part of their estate. So it's not going to your grandchildren. It's still part of your estate, and then it's going, according to, I don't know if you have a will or a trust or the laws of intestacy or something like that, but your wishes are not being carried out. Also, it does not address the issue of incapacity. So what happens if you are, if you get older and you need care, and maybe you need help making decisions later on, or maybe you have a disability, something like that. The property cannot be sold automatically to pay for your care, so that may require someone in your family going to court to get a guardianship and a conservatorship over you. And if no one in your family is around to do that, then the government gets involved. So it could actually get really messy. So that's a big reason to not do this. There can also be problems with your beneficiaries. And I can think of two things here. So first of all, what if your beneficiary of your real estate is not fiscally responsible? They then immediately receive the property, and if they're prone to spend money, there's nothing stopping them from just selling the property right away, taking the money, going on an expensive cruise, and buying a fancy car. And there went the money. So even though you had good wishes, you wanted to have the house and pass it on to the next generation so it would stay in the family, well, that didn't happen. That could have been prevented by putting the house into a trust and putting specific provisions to prevent that kind of a thing. So your beneficiaries can just take the asset, take the house, sell it, and spend it. Also, if you're transferring property to multiple beneficiaries, that can also be a mess. Now, I've dealt with multiple situations like this over my 24-year career. One I can think of, they're all different variations of the same thing, but I'm going to talk about one situation. It happened to be there were multiple adult children who all inherited this family house, and one of the children moved into the house and just lived there, and the other kids were kind of wondering, well, what do we do? And you know, they didn't really take any action. They just thought, well, you know, maybe things will work out. And by the way, you know, our sister promises she's going to sell the house. It's just temporary. However, that went on for years, and before long, there was an issue about whether she got the house by adverse possession, meaning she lived there long enough that and no one complained about it. So did she just get 100% title to the house? So there was a fight in the family, and it finally got resolved. We were able to help them all resolve it, but we had to go to court, and it took a long time, and everyone paid a lot of money, and it didn't have to be. It could have easily been avoided. So there are some of the pros and cons of using a beneficiary deed. If you have any questions about this or anything else related to estate planning or probate, give us a call. We're here to help.